So in our last lesson, we talked about what an analogy was, and we talked about the relationships between words and how that's the biggest part of what an analogy is. Today, we're still going to be focusing on those relationships, but we're also going to be finishing the analogy. Let me show you what I mean. So today we're learning how the two pairs of words work together, not just one pair, not just two words, but two pairs of words work together to become an actual analogy. So yesterday we looked at the relationship between bed and lie. We said that the function or the purpose of a bed is to lie on it. So we would write that relationship either with the colon, bed is to lie, or with words, bed is to lie. When you write an analogy, you have to combine two pairs of words. Right here, we just have one pair of words, bed and lie. We need another pair to make it a complete analogy. So after the first pair of words, bed and lie, this time we're going to put two colons to show that we're moving on to the next pair of words. In an analogy, the two pairs of words have to have the same relationship. So if bed is the function of a bed is to lie, then whatever our next pair of words has to also be a function or purpose relationship. For instance, if we use a bed to lie down, then we must use a chair to sit down. So if I'm going to write that analogy, I would say bed is to lie. And then these, we have two sets of colons here to show that this is an entirely new set of words. But we use a bed to lie, just like we use a chair to sit. Both sets of words have the relationship of how things are used or what their functions are. So let's look at this first pair of words. Fish is to swim, and then we're going to move on. We're going to complete this analogy as bird is to something. Before I can't even care about the bird right now. I mean, I care about birds, but I can't care about it right now. We have to just look at that first pair of words. Fish is to swim. I have to find the relationship between these two words so that I know how to complete the blank. What is the relationship between fish and swim? A characteristic of how a fish moves is that he swims. For a fish to move, he must swim. Now that we know the relationship between the first pair of words, we can figure out that missing word because both sets of words have to use the same relationship. Okay? So if we say a characteristic of how a fish moves is that it swims, then a characteristic of how a bird moves is that it can, well, how does a bird move? Characteristic of how a fish swims, a characteristic of how a bird moves is that he flies. I'm going to go back. So I would read that this way. Fish is to swim as, just like, bird is to fly. The as here means just like. It means it's letting you know I'm using the same relationship. Let's look at another one. Ear is to hear as nose is to blank. Look at just the first pair of words. Ear is to hear. What is the relationship between ear and hear? Well, we use an ear to hear. If we have to use the same relationship from the first pair of words to the second pair of words, then now we can fill in this blank. Because both sets of words have to use the same relationship. Therefore, if we use an ear to hear, then we use a nose to smell. And here's how we read that. Ear is to hear as nose is to smell. That's not hard, right? If you figure out the first piece of the puzzle, the second piece of the puzzle is pretty easy. Lost my mouse, sorry. Let's look at another one. Puppy is to fur as bird is to blank. We're going to just look at the first pair of words. Puppy is to fur. What's the relationship between puppy and fur? Well, a characteristic of a puppy is that he is covered in fur. The puppy is covered in fur. Whatever I did to get from here to here, I have to use to get from here to here. Is covered in is what we're using there. Because both sets of words have to use the same relationship. So a puppy is covered in fur as a bird is covered in puppy is to fur as bird is to feathers. A puppy is covered in fur, a bird is covered in feathers. Got it? It's not too hard, is it? Just remember, you have to figure out the relationship between the first two words and then use the same relationship to figure out the missing word in the analogy. You're going to try them on your own. I'm going to look at that assignment with you, but don't forget to email me if you need help. Don't just guess. That's not helpful. Ask me. I will meet you in a Google Meet. If you're in my classroom, I'm going to come help you. I am here to help, but you must ask. Let's go look at today's assignment. So today's assignment is called Completing the Analogy. You're going to type your first and last name, and then it says, below you are going to see a pair of words. You must determine the relationship in each pair of words. Then you will see some unfinished analogies. You're going to use the drop-down menus to find the word that best completes the analogy. Remember to consider the relationship of the first pair of words so that you can figure out what the missing words should be. So I've just broken this up for you. Here, all I want you to do is find the relationship between rose and flower. Rose has the purpose of flower. Rose is the opposite of flower. The characteristic of a rose is a flower. Rose is one part of a whole flower. A rose is a type of flower. A rose is a synonym of flower. No, because if I say bring me a flower and you bring me a rose, but I wanted a daisy, those aren't the same things, right? So it has to be a rose is a type of flower. Consider your answer above, that you said a rose is a type of flower. Now complete this analogy. If a rose is a type of flower, then a hammer is a type of shed, a type of carpenter, a hammer is a type of nail, or a hammer is a type of tool. Obviously, a hammer is a type of tool. So then we would say rose is to flower as hammer is to tool. So you're doing the exact same thing that you did before with me just now. I've just broken it up into two questions. Find the relationship between up and down. Up has the characteristic of down. Up is a type of down. Up is for the purpose of down. Up is one part of a whole down. Up is the opposite of down. Up is a synonym of down. So I'm going to choose up is the opposite of down. Consider that answer above. Up is the opposite of down, and complete this analogy. If up is the opposite of down, then left is the opposite of right. Okay. Left is the opposite of below. Left is the opposite of direction. Left is the opposite of side. No, the only good answer is left is the opposite of right. So now my analogy is up is to down as left is to right. Got it? I think you do. Go try this. And remember, I'm right here. Email me.